It's officially time for the summer event rerun, may the farming begin, but a few new interesting units are coming with it, and one of my all-time top Arknights waifus, so let's get into all of it. I think most of us were expecting CC number 2 to come out first since it was announced first, but nope. The Farm Fest is coming out soon. If this will be your first time playing it, you'll have a chance to get Ceylon, which I 100% suggest, since while she may not be the best medic, event reruns usually only happen once, so who knows if you'll even have a chance to get her again. I've already talked about her in a video about welfare units, so today I'll be talking about the new ones. And a quick little side note, why can't we get more than one Arknight Prime when we've already played the event? I mean, I get that doing the whole thing all over again might be redundant to some, but at least some new challenge modes or something, please? Maybe I'm just too used to the way event reruns work in FGO, but it just seems a little unfair. That's all I wanted to say. Now let's actually move on to the new operators.
大将、どうも、Jaye と申します。星熊さんに勧められてロドスに行きやした。海産物は一通りわかりやす。あとは料理と包丁さばきもまあ悪くないと思うんで、その辺お手伝いできると思いやす。
I am so happy this man got to become a playable character, hell yeah. But Jaye is kinda odd. He's a specialist, a fast redeploy one to be more specific, but he's also sort of an anti-vanguard. By that I mean every 3 seconds he takes away DP. You don't get refunded at all when you retreat him, and if you end up running out of cost points, he's forcibly retreated. So he's sort of a late game unit, not in the traditional sense of late game, but like someone you can only really use a little later in battle when you've accumulated quite a bit of DP and have enough to spare. Although, because of his talent, it seems like he's pretty good to deal with infected lifeforms, especially exploding spiders. His attack is increased quite a bit, especially since he's a 4-star and it's easy to get him to potential 6. With that in mind, at E160 his attack would be 726 instead of 559, and simply at E2 level 1 it'd be 838, meaning it'd only take about 5 hits to kill one, or like 6 or 7 if we're talking about those icy boys. Skill 1 increases his attack by 45% and seals the target's special abilities for a second. This lasts forever. I mean, kinda, taking his huge demerit into account. It's actually pretty good considering how much it increases his attack by, up to 810 or even 1052 while attacking infected lifeforms, all of this at E1 max. Now that I think about it, his demerit actually makes sense, because for a 4-star this is pretty crazy, since as opposed to usual fast redeploy units where their skills are either burst damage or passives that last 10 or so seconds, this doesn't have a time limit and is more a case of either you take him off the field or we force you to, as well as leaving you broke. And just for reference, at E240, this skill would be raising his attack to 904 or 1356 if you get a chance to use his talent. Also, by bumping it up to M1, it now seals special abilities for 2 seconds instead. Skill 2 is another infinite duration skill. The attack increase is pretty similar, 40%, raising his attack to 782 or 1016 with his talent at E1 max, and also heals an ally somewhere in the 8 tiles surrounding him by 40% of the damage dealt to whatever enemy he's attacking. This percentage obviously varies from enemy to enemy, but one with 0 defense would let him heal an ally for 312, one with 100 defense would be 272, so on and so forth. Unless they're infected lifeforms, in that case, the 2 defense examples I gave would end up healing for 406 and 366 respectively. Something to keep in mind is that different than most fast redeploy operators whose skills kick in immediately, his takes a little bit to charge. When I say a little bit, I do mean a little bit, like 6 seconds for his first one and 11 for his second. But since he sucks up 3 DP every 3 seconds, it's important to keep that in mind. Overall, Jaye is weird. Definitely pretty unique and can be actually pretty good, but weird. Despite that, he seems like an incredibly fun unit to play around with, and just make sure to take a Myrtle or Elysium as well.
前はモニカ いや、今はインキャンデセンスって呼ぶべきか。とにかくそいつのボディーガードをやってた。今回はようやくあいつにもまともな就職先が見つかったみたいだし、やっと私も違うことができるってわけだ。とにかく、これからよろしくね。
I love Andreana, therefore she's fantastic, and that's all you need to know. Okay, let's be serious now. She's definitely one of my top waifus in the game and seems to be based off of one of my all-time favorite animals, but I won't let that interfere with my opinion. We've finally been introduced to the third member of Abyssal, and she's a long-range sniper, qualified as that by having a high attack, slow attack speed, and obviously, a pretty large range. She'll always be targeting enemies that have the lowest defense, making it much easier for anyone else to finish them off quicker because of her high attack. Her pretty lengthy attack speed is slightly compensated with her talent, giving all Abyssal Hunter operators an extra 6 or 12 attack speed at E1 and E2, bringing her own down from 2.7 seconds to 2.53 or 2.38. This talent may seem a little lackluster, and honestly at E1 it is, but it does make a pretty noticeable difference at E2. Skill 1 is the famous attack strengthening type Gamma, increasing her attack by 60%, which is usually fairly good by itself, but because of her already high base attack stats, it brings her all the way up to 1403 at E1 max. This is usually the type of damage that would come with a burst skill, so for something that lasts 30 seconds, allowing her to hit 11 times at E1 or 12 at E2 with this boost, it definitely seems a lot better than it looks. It takes 35 seconds to charge, so it's almost a 1-to-1 ratio of when she can use it and when she can't. Skill 2 though makes her an actual beast, raising her attack all the way up to 2,543 at E1 max for the next 30 seconds or 11 attacks. The sheer power she'll bring to the battlefield is incredible. This also lowers her target movement speed by 30% for the next 4 seconds, which is always appreciated. The thing is, she can only actually attack enemies who are above 50% of their HP, which can definitely be quite a bit of a drawback in some cases. But even so, she can chunk a large portion of that away for someone else to finish off. And there are actually quite a few enemies she can kill with this while they're between 51 to 60% of their HP, especially considering the fact that she prioritizes units with lower defense. If you happen to N3 this, the movement speed debuff is now 40% and it lasts for 6 seconds, while now her attack boost is plus 240%. If you just promote her and don't level her up at all, this will raise her attack to 2,981, but if you have LMD and battle records to spare and decide to bring her up to level 40, it would be 3,304. Overall, Andreana is a unit whose main usage is big gun go big boom, or more specifically, someone who can chunk off quite a bit of HP from enemies to help the rest of your team finish them off quicker. She's the type of unit that makes me extremely happy we're behind Cien, so that way, if she ever gets a skin, I'll know to start saving up for it ahead of time.
お前がドクターか。自己紹介をしよう。コードネームはソーンズ。本日よりズボンの裾がまくれている。気にするな。いつものことだ。
Before I get onto Thorns, let me ask, hey, why didn't we get the outfits from the clothing line collab as skins? I get that the operators who were wearing them were just being used as models and promo art, but still, they look so good and give off the cozy vibes I love. Please give them to us as skins, please. I'm begging you, Yostar. Anyways, Thorns is an absolutely fantastic unit and that already starts with his talents. Similar to Blue Poison, his attacks poison the target, dealing 65 magic damage to them for 3 seconds, being 195 in total, or 390 in total against ranged enemies as the damage is doubled. At E2, it's 125 for 3 seconds, being 375 in total, or 750 against ranged enemies. This second talent is a passive HP regeneration. If he hasn't actively attacked for 2 seconds, he'll recover 3.5% of his max HP every second to come until he attacks again. At his very base E2 stats, that's 72.2. and at E240 it'd be 80.6 every second. That's a pretty hefty self-heal, and since it does stack with similar effects, it means he can still be healed by other passive heals such as Angelina's talent. At E240, if he had like 1 HP left when this kicked in, it'd only take him 29 seconds to get back up to 2,304, and that's without the help of any medics or other forms of healing. His first skill is the same as Andreana's, increasing his attack by 60%, leading it to be 920 at E1 max for his normal attacks and 736 for his ranged ones. Pretty solid, although let's be real, unless you just started playing and haven't promoted anyone yet, you most likely won't be using this skill. Skill 2 is pretty unique and pretty fantastic. For starters, his range slightly increases, which is always nice. His defense is increased by 70%, which leads it to be 566, and he stops attacking. Well, technically. His attack is increased by 40%, and each time he's attacked by an enemy, he releases spikes in the form of ranged attacks that can hit up to 4 enemies within his range. At E1 max, this only increases his attack up to 644, since they're ranged, and those ranged attacks are only 80% of his usual attack, but since it hits 4 different targets, that's a grand total of 2,576. Depending on which enemies are attacking him and how fast they are, he could be launching those spikes out every 0.75 seconds. If you choose to M3 this, that time interval is actually now only 0.6 seconds. His attack boost is now 60%, being 736 at E21 or 812 at E240, doing 3,248 damage in total to all the enemies he's hitting. His defense is also increased by 110% now, being a total of 762 and making him one beefy boy. Since he's at E2 now and he isn't actively attacking, his HP restoration will come into effect, which is great. Plus, it's worth noting that the duration of the skill is longer than the actual charging time, which I greatly appreciate. Skill 3 is an infinite duration skill, and different than Jaye, it's actually infinite. First of all, this skill charges by attacks, but it really isn't too bad since it only takes 15, which would take 19.5 seconds if you were to be constantly attacking enemies. In order for it to be infinite, you have to trigger it twice, which isn't too bad considering it doesn't really take long. First time you trigger it, it'll increase his range. His ranged attacks are no longer just 80% of his attack and are now the full thing. At E240, that'd be 635, and with the 40% increase, 889. Plus, it increases his attack speed by 16, making it 1.1 seconds instead. That's all fun and games until the second time comes around and now these stat gains are doubled. His attack is increased by 80%, making it 1,143, and his attack speed is increased by 32, letting him attack every 0.89 seconds. I feel like I don't even have to explain why this skill is so good. It's a permanent attack and speed boost that doesn't even take all too long to activate, and when you are waiting for it, it's not just over a minute of nothingness since he gets to use a trial version of it for 30 seconds before actually going sicko mode. And just for pure informational reasons, at M3 the attack boost is by 60% and the attack speed boost is by 25, meaning first time around he attacks for 1,061 every 0.98 seconds, and after that it's forever 1,397 every 0.65 seconds. Overall, Thorns is just incredible, 100% worth investing in my humble opinion. Plus, even though Phantom is the one for me, Thorns is definitely in second place when it comes to Arknights husbandos. Although in the scheme of husbandos and waifus, he doesn't even come close to Andreana. And that was it for this one. Sorry for the late upload. I don't exactly know why it happened. It's too much to explain, but I didn't skip this week and that's what matters. If you're rolling on this banner, I wish you the best of luck. If you happen to stumble upon this after the banner and you did roll, please tell me who you got. I'd love to see what the gacha gods had in store for you. I have talked about Thorns in the past, but I'm choosing to ignore that because it was in an old and fairly cringy video. It's been getting more views recently, probably because he's actually coming out soon, and I hope people will stop watching it now. It's so bad. Anyways, if you're new around here and you enjoyed this video, I hope you choose to stick around. Studies show that it actually increases your gacha luck. Don't actually look into that though, just trust me. Also, I'm sorry if the quality of my mic is different than usual. I accidentally recorded on completely different settings and I only noticed now, but there's no time to re-record everything, so It'll be better next time. But that's all I had to say. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you another day.